This morning we're talking about becoming conscious. We're in our third week of our Step Out in Faith program. And if you've been following along, you know that this week is about becoming conscious. And of course, we have our consciousness raising calendar. So hopefully every day you're taking a look at what the activity is for the day and doing something to continually work with raising consciousness, both our own, and of course, as we raise our own consciousness, we raise consciousness as a whole. So what does that mean? Raising consciousness, becoming conscious. Don't you think everybody should do that? Think of all the people you know who you think, well, that wasn't very conscious. Couldn't that person just wake up and understand what's going on? Of course, every time we do that, we have to remember that we're maybe projecting out that perhaps, we ourselves need to become a little more conscious, a little more awake, a little more aware of what's going on. And we don't want to just look at what other people are needing to do. Of course, we want to pay attention to what we ourselves need to do. So we define what does it mean to become conscious. We might have to define that a little bit. And in its most simplistic way of understanding it, right, it means not being on autopilot. Right? It means not being on autopilot. It means being intentional about life. It means being present to what's going on. It means, do I really want to be this way? Do I want to behave this way? Do I want this thing to come out of my mouth? Or am I simply reacting, having some kind of a knee-jerk reaction or being, as I said, on autopilot? One of the ways that we can get a sense for autopilot, like how many times have you driven home from work or from someplace, you've driven home and you get into the garage and you think, wait, I don't actually remember the trip. I don't remember getting here because I was thinking about all these other things. Right? And yet we knew how to drive and we, got there safely. That's being on autopilot. We're not actually present to what we're doing and what's going on. Now, there's a lot of conversation about becoming conscious and waking up and paying attention and not being asleep and all of those things. And a lot of them are psychologically based. And I don't know about you, but I've spent a lot of time trying to make myself aware, to wake up and to not fall into old patterns up to today. Still working on it, especially when I work on it from a purely psychological point of view, because that feels like I'm having to, bludgeon my brain into seeing it differently. And I often feel as though I'm doing it wrong, or I don't actually know what I'm doing, or quite frankly, that I'm stuck. I'm stuck with the trauma of my past, or I'm stuck with the habits, the habitual ways I've learned to protect myself, close myself off, project. It's so much easier to make you wrong than for me to own whatever's going on, right? All that stuff. And so when we talk about becoming conscious in metaphysics, in the science of mind, we talk about it from a much larger point of view. We talk about it from a spiritual perspective, a big picture perspective, because it's actually based on an entirely different idea about what's going on in life, the nature of reality, and the truth of who we are. So, to talk about how to get off autopilot, the first thing we have to do is we have to talk about the universe. I know that might feel like a bit of a leap, but go with me here. I promise you, there is something really important about this, and it will keep us from trying to bludgeon ourselves and our brain, and we'll stop asking, why do I keep doing this? Right? It'll give us an entirely different place to stand. So we're going to start big picture. And our big picture about consciousness is both from a spiritual point of view and from a scientific point of view. Right? So when we start out in spirituality, Hinduism has this lovely phrase that we've said many times in many classes. It comes directly out of Hinduism and translated into English. It is the idea that everything is conscious. Everything is conscious. Because life is consciousness itself. And the way that's expressed is consciousness sleeps in the rocks, waves in the grass, moves in the animal, and awakens in the human. Or quite frankly, anywhere where self-awareness is coming to wake up to itself. And so we recognize that consciousness is actually the truth of life. It is actually everything is consciousness. Everything has a level of being conscious. And as all of life has evolved, right, that evolution has been towards the awakening of consciousness. So Brian Swimme, who's an astrophysicist and I don't know what all of his credentials are. I had a pleasure years ago of taking an amazing course from him. He talks about the cosmos as being a green dragon. And he loves the word cosmos as opposed to the universe, because the idea of the cosmos is that it's a living, breathing entity. The cosmos itself, this physical universe that we call the space-time continuum, is actually a living, breathing, growing, evolving, expanding reality, which of course is what science teaches us from the Big Bang and all as this never-ending expanding of evolution. But it's not just random. There is a consciousness that's impulsed, that is the impulse behind all of that, which ties beautifully with this idea from Hinduism that this whole process is about consciousness growing and moving and becoming something. We're going to hold that thought. What is it becoming? So this dovetails beautifully with the deep ecofeminism that talks about the idea of Gaia itself, our Mother Earth, as a single organism, as consciousness that has been evolving. And of course, when we talk about it from the Jewish tradition, right, we have the whole story of Job. And for those of you who are familiar with the story of Job, right, everything is taken away and it's worse and worse and worse and worse. And he refuses not to have faith in God, in the divine. And it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And he has all his friends and they don't really help. And finally, when everything is at the very lowest of the low, he says, I refuse not to have faith in the divine. And what happens? He has a revelation. He has a revelation of creation. The beauty of creation, the magnificence of creation, and its aliveness, and the stars, and the mountains, and the rivers, and the grandeur of all of this. And what it says is God revealed itself to Job. And he saw that conscious life, palpable life. And he recognized himself as a small but part of that whole life. And of course, this goes on, right, with our new science and our quantum physics, our quantum field idea that everything is emerging out of this quantum field. Everything. That the fabric of the space-time continuum is actually a field. And what emerges but packets of information, intelligence. I know how to become an atom. I know how to become a molecule. I know how to become a cell. I know how to become a star, right? That consciousness is emerging, constantly emerging out of a field. And this field is the same field that everything is pointing to, just using different language and a different way of getting a hold of it. Right, and then we come to the Christian tradition that reminds us to think on things that are true, beautiful, and in alignment with that deep spiritual revelation. Think on these things. Pure, true, and beautiful. Think on these things. Right, and so the whole point is to realize and recognize, to become conscious. The first thing we have to become conscious of is the nature of reality, this spiritual evolution of life itself that is seeking to awaken. What is it seeking to awaken to but itself? Ernest Holmes writes this, Believing that the universal spirit comes to fullest consciousness in us or any place where self-awareness is awakening, right? Let's not just be anthrocentric. It could be anywhere in the galaxy. It even could be anywhere on our planet, but we're the ones we know the most about. Believing that the universal spirit comes to fullest consciousness in us as our innermost self, we strive to cultivate the inner life, knowing that religious certainty is the result of an impact of spirit upon the soul. We seek the witness of the inner spirit. We call this becoming Christ conscious, meaning by that, attaining soul certainty. And what is the soul certainty that we're attaining but a revelation of life itself, of the magnificence of creation, and that all of it is an outpicturing of this divine reality. Now, there's lots and lots and lots of ways we talk about the divine reality. If we don't like the word God, we can use the word spirit and creation and the universe and all of the ways in which we go beyond an anthropomorphic idea of a being or a deity out there, but we recognize this consciousness that is the fabric of life. And there's no spiritual tradition that doesn't agree that the fabric of life is both the impulse of life to express and the intelligence to do so. In the science of mind, we call that love and law, presence and principle. The presence of life, the consciousness which is everywhere present all the time, fully engaged. It's the quantum field. It's the presence of life itself as all of creation, everywhere present all the time, and is the intelligence to become creation, to evolve, to grow, to continually move towards the direction of self-awareness. And the recognition that the creative universe is that expression of life and intelligence getting to express and experience itself. That this is what's going on. So the first thing about becoming conscious, right, is that we realize that we're wandering around looking for it. We're looking for spirit. We're looking for spiritual experience. We're looking for life. We're looking for all of these things. We're looking to feel connected. We're looking to feel peace. We're looking and looking and looking and looking. And our first recognition or our first idea about becoming conscious is that we want to become conscious of the fact that we're a part of this wholeness. We want to see life. We want to experience it. We want to experience ourselves as part of it. And we look and we look and we wander around and we wander around and we're constantly looking for it. And so we meditate and we pray and we do all kinds of spiritual practices looking for this very thing. We want to become conscious of spiritual reality, right? And as we begin to get glimmers of it, we begin to sense it and feel it in our meditation, in our prayer, in our expanded understanding of the universe. And we begin to look for our part in it. Well, is it all out there? Do I just become conscious of it out there? What does that have to do with me, right? Where am I in all of this? And yeah, we spend a lot of time looking for that, don't we? So here's Lainey Bernstein singing to us from Frozen 2.
Every inch of me is trembling, but not from the cold. Something is familiar, like a dream I can reach but not quite hold. I can sense you there, like a friend I've always known. I'm arriving, and it feels like I am home. I have always been a fortress, cold secrets deep inside. You have secrets too, but you don't have to hide. Show yourself, I'm dying to meet you. Show yourself, it's your turn. Are you the one I've been waiting for all of my life? Show yourself, I'm ready to learn. I've never felt so certain. All my life I've been torn, but I'm here for a reason. Could this be the reason I was born? I have always been so different. Normal rules did not apply. Is this the day? Are you the way? I finally find out why. Show yourself, I'm no longer trembling. Here I am, I've come so far. You are the answer I've waited for all of my life. Oh, show yourself, let me see who you are. Come to me now, open your door. Don't make me wait one moment more. Oh, come to me now, open your door. Don't make me wait one moment more. Where the north wind meets the sea, there's a river full of memory. Come, my darling, homeward bound. I am found. Show yourself, step into your power, throw yourself into something new. I am the one I've been waiting for all of my life. Oh, show yourself.
Thank you, Lainey, Matt, Jonathan, and Brad. Thank you so much. And of course, I'm a complete basket case. I love that song, and I cry when I watch the movie. Okay, so spoiler alert, right? If you haven't seen Frozen 2, you need to see it. You got to watch Frozen and then Frozen 2. Holy mackerel. Unfreaking believable, right? And so how many of us are wandering around in the world looking for it? And, you know, when we first heard that song on the radio before we watched the movie, it's all about, you know, show yourself. Somebody's looking. We're always looking, wandering around. We're looking for life. We're looking for God. We're looking for the spiritual truth. We're looking for whatever it is that we're constantly looking for. We're looking for our own, something that will fill us up, or a loved one. Show yourself, show yourself, show yourself, show yourself. And what do we discover ultimately? What do we have to become conscious of? We have to become conscious of that thing that we are looking for is not only out there. In the science of mind, we find the whole process of evolution is to produce a being. I can't read my note. I'm going to have to pull it up a little closer because it's a little dark. The whole process of evolution is to produce a being who can consciously cooperate with the evolutionary principle, which is pure spirit. At first, we are ignorant of this because we have not realized that spirit is the root of every form. Gradually, we are brought to the realization that we are some part of this creative order. Gradually, that which seemed to be imposed eternally passes under our conscious control. This happens in such degree as we become consciously aware of the immediate presence of reality and our relationship to it. Now, many of us have wandered around in our life. Show yourself. Show yourself, Spirit. Show yourself, love. Show yourself, God. Show yourself. Please, I'm begging you. I just need a sign. I just want something to fill me up. Show yourself, love. Let's show yourself in some way, in some relationship, in some person. All of these things, right, that wandering around is our habitual way of being on autopilot. Because we've learned that everything we need is out there. Becoming conscious is so becoming conscious of the nature of reality that we become conscious of our place in it. I am the one I've been waiting for. Okay, spoiler alert over. You can now go watch the movie if you haven't. You can watch it again. I cry every time. Oh my gosh, I cry at both of them. An entirely new way of imagining love and life in these movies. It's extraordinary. And it is very much an opportunity for us to reimagine what are we trying to become conscious to. Not just to our, we don't necessarily have to spend all that much time coming conscious to all of our false beliefs and our autopilot and our unconscious behaviors and all of those things. What we have to do is become conscious of the truth. It is the truth that sets us free. It is the truth of the nature of reality and who we are that sets us free. And the nature of reality is, yes, it is actually out there. It is, in fact, creation as the expression of the grandeur and magnificence and wonder of life, of spirit, of love. And not only is it out there, it's also in here. It is the very thing that we seek. We are the place where the cosmos is, in fact, awakening, where not only are we becoming conscious, but the entire cosmos is becoming conscious. Life itself, spirit itself, is becoming conscious of being a part of this whole and of participating in the co-creative process. We are the place. We are the place where the universe gets to peer into the physical reality and go, wow, look at that. Look at what I created. Oh, wow, look at that. Wow, I didn't know I was creating that way. We're the place where the infinite is getting to experience itself as us, as all of the ways in which creation is expressed. Where we can see intelligence moving, we can see the life principle, we can see the impulse, we can see the trajectory of life as actually being for life, and we can decide to align ourselves with it, right? We can become conscious of whether or not we're aligning ourselves with it or not. But first we have to become conscious of it, of this reality and our place in it. So remember when we said that one of the ways that this has begun to be explored or has been shown in the scientific side of life, in this ecofeminism of Gaia, this reality of Gaia, and that the entire planet is one organism, just like we're one organism, but we can say we have a heart and lungs and cells and all the limbs, right, all the different pieces. So we can say Gaia has atmosphere and the circulatory system of its water and the bones of the mountains and the cells of all the creatures and all the plants and all the animals, right? We can see that that's a single organism. And this moment this moment, 50 years ago, the first spacewalk. In 2011, the first untethered spacewalk. In this moment, it was seen that Gaia had grown a part of herself that could leave and turn around and look back. And what have all the astronauts said? You look back at the Earth and you see there's no boundaries. It's all one. This is precisely the moment. This is the moment when we become conscious of ourselves as able to recognize that we are individualized expressions of the whole. That we have a sense of separation that allows us to step outside of the whole and look back at creation and look upon the nature of reality and see that it is one. And see that we're a part of it. That we have been grown and evolved to the place where this awareness is possible. This is ultimately the most important thing that we must become conscious of ourselves, who we really are. Another spoiler alert for Frozen 2. If you haven't watched it, close your ears for a minute, right? She talks about being the fifth element. The fifth element, all of the physical elements, right? But there's the fifth element of awakening to ourselves, of spirit, becoming conscious and aware, of being able to sense and see and look back at the wholeness. Ernest Holmes says it this way. This is truly my favorite quote in the entire science of mind. What you are looking for, you are looking with and looking at. The sense of the presence that you are looking for, you are looking with the eyes of the presence as you. And you are looking at all the people and creation and all of life, the presence making itself known. And we can place anything in that. The love that we are looking for, we actually look with. We have to become that inside, and we look at. We see love made manifest. Do you see, ultimately becoming conscious begins with our work of understanding these realities and beginning to own them to the best of our ability, to practice what I'm looking for: love, joy, peace, stopping being anxious, letting go of fear, all of those things. What I'm looking for, I am already looking with. I am the one I've been waiting for. I am the place. You are the place where the universe is becoming conscious of itself and looking at all of creation, all of life, and seeing that truth, that it is in fact all one. How do we become conscious? We begin to work with these ideas. We keep working with them. We keep imagining them. We keep trying to be that to the best of our ability. We keep asking ourselves these questions. We keep moving in that direction. And it's not trying so much to change the old stuff. The old stuff will atrophy if we will spend our time cultivating our experience of these things. Not just, oh, they're nice words and we can talk about it, but our experience of these things. Whatever opens the door for us to keep experiencing it and go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into this idea. What I'm looking for, I'm looking with and looking at. So I do want to tell a story just briefly to kind of talk about this in my own life, right? This has been a long journey for me. I'm the queen of autopilot and going unconscious and having the knee-jerk reaction and all of a sudden getting all bent out of shape and you know. And so the first thing that happened is I noticed that I hated feeling petty. I hated feeling petty because it was no longer in alignment with all of this spiritual work I was doing. right? And what I began to identify is that feeling petty felt constricted. So I began to identify any time that my reactions or my words or my feeling was contracting, constricted, trying to close things down, shut things off. I knew in that moment that I was not conscious, that I was running out of those autopilot behaviors. And to begin to try to sense that feeling within me was the very first indication, wait, I'm not conscious in this moment, right? And so not too long ago, Karen and I were having a conversation about some family stuff that was going on in our extended family, and there was a bit of, judgment and projection, and we were unhappy, and we were kind of, having a little bit of a session about, and not between us, but we were definitely in that reactionary mode. And I could feel that. I could feel that sense of closed down and shut off, and I realized that I now have a visceral reaction to that. I hate the way that feels. I hate it. I hate it. And so in that moment, I just stopped, and I looked at her, and I said, so what if we just tried to be love? She looked at me, and I looked at her. I said, I don't know what that looks like. I mean, I know there are boundaries that have to be had, and there's, good psychological health and well-being that has to be had here, and, we do actually have to make some decisions. But what if we just, what if the place, our come-from place, was to be love? And she and I, in that moment, made that agreement. That while we would try to have the awarenesses from a psychological point of view, that we would become conscious, that we would walk through it being love. In that moment, everything changed. All of a sudden, I didn't feel so constricted. I didn't feel it wasn't so tight and hard. And I thought, I'm still not exactly sure what all the doingness looks like, but I know what it feels like when I'm consciously engaged instead of just knee-jerk reaction, knee-jerk reaction, knee-jerk reaction, and pointing it out there. They need to be different. That shouldn't happen. Something needs to be done, right? All of those things. And so part of then how to switch out of autopilot is to begin to pay attention. Pay attention to, for me, it's an energetic, embodied space. And the best description is whether it's expanded or contracted. When I'm contracted, I'm not being conscious. When I feel expanded and I feel open, I'm being conscious. Now, the answer still might be no, but it's from a conscious, open place, not from a hell no place, right? Which is a completely different energetic. And so and then when we know these things, right, we're actually calling it forth from ourselves by simply, Karen and I, looking at each other and saying, what would it like if we were to just be love to the best of our ability? Do you see we began to call it forth? We began to call it forth from within ourselves, not necessarily from anything else, but from within ourselves. And we're able to deal with it in a whole nother way. And so it is this that begins to not only allow us to become conscious, but it starts building consciousness. So now I build an expanded consciousness around in relationships, around prosperity, around my sense of accomplishment in work, or my ability to contribute to what's going on culturally around me, right? All of those things become available from an entirely different place. And so we move into this place where beyond manifesting individual things, we're actually demonstrating our realization and our embodiment of our spiritual truth, the spiritual knowledge. We're demonstrating it in our life in general and in the ways in which we're engaging. And we're demonstrating our experience of the divine. So I don't want to pass by my last quote. So we're going to close with this quote. Realizing then that while the power is limitless, it must become operative through our own thought. We shall see that what we need is not some greater power, but a greater consciousness, a deeper realization of life, a more sublime concept of being, a more intimate concept of an already indwelling God who is personal to us by virtue of being personified through us. Show yourself. You are the one you've been waiting for. It is in that revelation that we truly begin to become conscious. So let us close with this spiritual mind treatment. Just inviting you to go within with me now. Just take a moment to reflect on the beauty of life, wherever you find it. Oh, yes, you might have a yeah, but there's not beauty here and there's not beauty there. But in the beauty of life, a grandchild, a garden, mountain, a friend, a moment where life all comes together for good. There is so much beauty in creation. And as we allow it to reveal ourselves to us, do you see we're revealing the face of the divine, the presence of life itself, reflecting on moments of love, deep peace, glimpses of joy. In each one of these, we recognize the divine presence, life itself. Recognizing moments where things have worked out, unexpected blessings, serendipitous ways the path is unfolded and something is manifested. Do you see? The intelligence, the laws of the universe are revealing themselves to us. In those moments, we recognize truth. And that life which we see out there is the same life that is moving in through and as each one of us right here. I am the one I've been waiting for. Not in some egotistical, hubris human way, but as an awakening of consciousness, where life itself is revealing itself, the fifth element that is needed for expression and creation, for the unique manifestation of the joy of life. And so today I affirm, I declare for each one of us that we become conscious. We become conscious of the universe, of the presence of the divine. We become conscious of the way the intelligence of life is operating in us, through us, and for us. We become conscious that we are the place where the awakening is happening. And therefore we become conscious of being love, of being light, of being truth in all that we do. How good it is to know that this is the truth. It is already revealing itself in, through, and each one of us. We raise ourselves out of our autopilot, out of our being asleep, out of our unconsciousness, and all of that begins to simply dissipate because we are conscious of who we are, and we call it good. In that deep and profound truth, we simply let it be. We let it go, and so it is.